Hi, everybody. This is the VPartySports Podcast. I'm your host, Vasu Vadaparty. Welcome into this Thursday afternoon. A big day on the show today. We preview the NBA, NCAA basketball. Not a lot on the board today, but this weekend we'll have plenty to talk about as we'll be back on Saturday and Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern with full NFL, NCAA, NBA hoops, a little NHL as well, too. Baseball has free agency. Don't forget the Daily Posts are at 6 o'clock Eastern weekdays on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Though with the bowl games, we will be doing them early. So tomorrow, no show tomorrow. So there'll be a daily post at 11 a.m. Eastern on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't forget, if you're interested in any sponsorship inquiries, please contact me directly through Instagram and Facebook or Twitter. You can get to me at VPartySports. There it is. Right there. You'll find me, Vasu Vadaparty, as well. All right. We start off with Thursday Night Football. A big game in the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers looking to clinch the NFC West. They're a 3-point favorite. 43 is the total for the game. 49ers win. They clinch the NFC West. They'll be 3 up with 3 to go, considering that they will have beaten Seattle twice if they win tonight. The head-to-head tiebreaker is the first one there. So they beat Seattle back in week 2, 29-7. Seattle's been leaking oil the last 3 weeks. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. The 49ers are on a 6-game winning streak. They are plus 108 in point differential in that 6-game winning streak. They've only allowed 54 points or 64 points in that. I forget what it was. Plus 108, 172. Yeah, they've allowed 64 points in their 6 games. They've scored 172, so nearly 30 a game in that 6-game winning streak. That's a huge game for Seattle. They've fallen. Not only are they second in the NFC West, but they're 8th in the wildcard race. They are behind the New York Giants, who are 7-5-1. Remember, they had the tie with the Washington Commanders. They're tied for the 6th and 7th spot, not only in the NFC East, but also for the wildcard. The Commanders have the tie-breaking edge over the Giants. But here's the thing. Seattle has already beaten the Giants this year. They beat them at home 27-13. Somewhere in the middle of the year, right when the Giants were rolling. And then that kind of started them into a tailspin, and that's where they are now. Giants were 6-2 to start the year. Now they're 7-5-1. But Seattle, they've lost 3 out of their last 4. They're 7-6 right now. So if you take those 3 losses away, that's 6-3 they were after 9 games. They lost to Tampa in England. They came back and beat the Rams. Then they lost to the Raiders on Josh Jacobs' walk-off running back touchdown win in overtime in Seattle. And then they got hammered last week by the Carolina Panthers. Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers leading the way in the battle of former New York Jet quarterbacks. So that's what's on the line. Brock Purdy is questionable, but it looks like he's going to start. He did have a rib injury on Sunday in their win against Tampa Bay. The 49ers defense looked outstanding, looked awesome. We said they've only given up 64 points in 6 games during this winning streak, and 17 of those were to the Miami Dolphins 2 weeks ago. That was the game Garoppolo got hurt. Purdy came in, and they managed the game the rest of the way. He started against the great Tom Brady and the Buccaneers defense, who was very undermanned last week, and the 49ers took advantage of that, rolling to a 35-7 victory over Tampa Bay. So here's where we're at. Seattle and the 49ers. Seattle, very good at home. They are, well, at 3-3 at home. They lost last week and to the Raiders. They're 3-1 in the division, so this is a big one as well, too, because if they win, they'll go to 4-1 in the division. They'll push the 49ers to 4-1 in the division. But then the next tiebreaker is common games, and I believe that would go to the 49ers. The common games would include the division games and the NFC South as well. So a very big game for Seattle. They're in 8th right now. They're out of the wild card race. They do have the tiebreaker on the New York Giants. They did not play Washington. Detroit is behind them. They have an advantage over Detroit. They beat Detroit as well early in the year. So this is a big game. Purdy in. Looks like he'll start. It'll be a big game tonight for the 49ers. Of course, Seattle needs this. If not, the division's over. 49ers have the tiebreaker head-to-head, and they move on to the final part of the season as the NFC West champions. By the way, don't forget the 49ers at 9-4 have a chance to catch the Minnesota Vikings at 10-3. They have a better conference record at 7-2 than does the Minnesota Vikings, and that is one of the tiebreakers in that game when you're not in division. So conference record, They didn't play head-to-head this year, so it goes to conference record at that point. So they've got a chance to catch. I don't think anybody's going to catch Philadelphia, but that's where the 49ers are in terms of the 3 spot, possibly the 2 spot. Seattle just trying to make it in, trying to get a win tonight, trying to make it in as well. All right, you see on the bottom line, Saturday's games going across: Minnesota, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Baltimore, Buffalo, Miami. We'll go through all the NFL games on Friday and Saturday as far as a full preview. But right now, the NFL lines are set for Saturday. Is -4, 47.5. Cleveland -3 and 38 versus Baltimore. And then Buffalo -7, 44 against the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have come out with a new attitude this week. They are 8-5. They're 2 back of Buffalo. They've beaten Buffalo this year. So this Saturday night would be a huge game for the Miami Dolphins. Last week, they were given a lot of flack because it was 55 degrees in Los Angeles when they lost to the Chargers. But they had heaters on the sideline, and I know that's going to not make a lot of East Coast and Midwest people happy, but the fact that they did have that. They lost. They're on a slide right now. They've lost 2 in a row, the 49ers 2 weeks ago. The Chargers last weekend. They need a win. They're going to Buffalo. Buffalo, the number 1 seed right now. They're tied with Kansas City. They have the head-to-head on Kansas City, so that's that game there. Baltimore, 9-4. They're tied with the Bengals, the red-hot Bengals. For first place in the AFC North, they have the tie-breaking edge with the head-to-head. Cleveland has had Deshaun Watson now for 2 games. They're favored by 3. This is all due to what's going to happen with Tyler Huntley. They're going to have to figure out what to do at quarterback. They do have J.K. Dobbins back. Defense has been okay. They did hold off their game last week against the Steelers. They did get a 16-14 win. Kenny Pickett got hurt, made a difference in that game. Trubisky threw 3 interceptions. So the Ravens and Browns play Saturday. Colts and Vikings. Vikings have clinched the North. Colts are out of it. But if Minnesota has any chance to hold off the 49ers in the number 3 spot and maybe even have a chance to catch Philadelphia, though that's unlikely, 2 games back, lose the tiebreaker to Philadelphia. So that's what we have for Saturday as well. Sunday, some big games Sunday. The New Orleans Saints are hosting Atlanta. That's a big one for Atlanta because Tampa Bay lost last week. They're 6-7. Carolina 5-8. Atlanta 5-8. Carolina with a better division record with Atlanta. So right now they're in the 8th spot. I believe they're in the 9th spot. But if they win outright, including a win against Tampa Bay, they can run the table and win that division, surprisingly and shockingly, depending on how Tampa Bay does the rest of the year. So Atlanta and New Orleans, that's one scenario. Atlanta's still in it at 5-8. This is a big win for them. They have to win against New Orleans. They have to have some help. The Jets and the Lions, a big one here for the New York Jets. They are on a two-game losing streak as well. Mike White has been playing well. Looks like he's going to play. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They're 7-6. Everybody in that AFC East is above 500. The Detroit Lions have won 5 out of 6, and they are right behind the Seattle Seahawks and right behind the New York Giants for that 7th spot. Detroit, speaking of head-to-head battles, they lost to Seattle, but they beat the Giants and they beat Washington. So they are rooting very hard for the 49ers tonight to be able to have a chance to get above Seattle, and then the tiebreakers play out the way they may be versus the Giants and the Commanders. Giants and Commanders play Sunday Night Football, by the way. That's going to be a huge game. Both teams 7-5-1. We'll get to that in a little bit. Kansas City, 14-point favorite over Houston. I told you about those big dogs on the road. Big dogs at home, I'm sorry. Kansas City, 14 on the road as a favorite. Dallas was 17.5 at home to Houston, and Houston nearly beat them, so be careful with that. Philadelphia, they're running away with the NFC right now. They're 9-point favorite at Chicago. Carolina, 3 versus Pittsburgh. They are behind Tampa Bay by a game. If they can run the table and they can win this week, Tampa Bay stumbles a little bit this weekend. They've got Cincinnati. That's not going to be easy for Tampa Bay as well. So Carolina has a chance to get into first place. If a loss by Tampa Bay Sunday and a win by Carolina could be in first place going into week 16. This is week 15 that we're looking at right now. And then finally, Dallas -4 at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's played better. They are out of a playoff spot, I believe, right now. They are in the they're in the 10th spot. They're 5-8. So they're 2 games back of the 7th spot. That's going to be pretty hard to do. They've got New England, the Chargers, and the Jets in front of them as well. Dallas in the 5th spot. Unlikely they're going to catch Philadelphia, but they're trying to hold off that 5th spot. They should be able to do it. They're 2 games up on Washington, 2 games up on the New York Giants in the NFC wildcard race, in the NFC East race. All right, the afternoon games. As we go to the afternoon game Sunday, Denver, Arizona, that's a throwaway game. Kyler Murray got hurt, the ACL tear on Monday night versus New England. They lost that game, 36 the total, 3 for Denver. Las Vegas and New England trying to fight for that playoff spot. They're right now in the 7th spot. They've got the tiebreaker edge over the Chargers by the win percentage in conference games. They used the division tiebreak initially to eliminate the Jets earlier, so that's why the Jets are below the Chargers, all at 7-6 right now. So very interesting race for number 7 in the AFC. And then the big one, Tampa Bay and Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a road favorite. You haven't seen Tom Brady as a home dog in a long time. I don't think they've been an underdog all year. Last week was the first week they've been an underdog, and that was against San Francisco. And sure enough, they are struggling right now. They're trying to hold on to first place in the AFC South. 6-7. Everybody in that division is under 500, with Tampa Bay leading. So somebody's going to come out of there. Said Carolina has a good chance to take over. Atlanta has a good chance, 5-8. I guess even the Saints, but Tampa Bay beat them already. And then they have one more left. So 2 games separate all 4 teams in that division. But you got to think Carolina has the best odds-on favorite to overtake Tampa Bay in that scenario. And then Cincinnati, they're tied with Baltimore. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. They beat Cleveland. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They beat Cleveland last week, 23-10 in Cincinnati. They're a road favorite, 3.5. That's tough. Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, we know how well they can do. 43.5, that might be a little high too. Sunday Night Football, we mentioned already. The big game between the Washington Commanders, the New York Giants. Both teams are 7-5-1. They are tied in the NFC East. They're tied in the wild card race. The Washington has the advantage by division games. They have the total at 40.5. The game ended up at 20-20, 2.5, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when they played against each other in the Meadowlands. This one in Washington. This one got flexed into Sunday night. And then Monday night, Green Bay Packers, 7 over the Rams, 39.5. Not a lot to say there. Baker Mayfield, obviously coming off that great start, great relief role. Now he's going to be the starter for Monday night against Aaron Rodgers, who looks like he's going to play. 7-point favorite for Green Bay, 39.5 on Monday night. But the big one tonight is Thursday Night Football. The Seattle Seahawks are hosting the San Francisco 49ers on Prime. 8:15 is the game. 49ers win. They clinch the NFC West. Seattle wins. They're right back in the wild card race. They're 2 back of San Francisco with a loss in hand in week 2 to the 49ers. 49ers defense incredible, plus 108 points differential in their 6-game winning streak. The Seahawks have been leaking oil. They've given up nearly 170 points, I believe, in the last 4 games. Let me look that up here because I did have that number, and I want to make sure I get this right. 30 to the Panthers, 23 to the Rams. That was a comeback win. Otherwise, this would be a 4-game losing streak. DK Metcalf, with very little time, gets the game-winning touchdown 2 weeks ago. So 53. They gave up 40 to the Raiders, so that's 93, and 21 in England. So they've given up 114 points in their last 4 games. They've scored 50, 77. They've scored 101. So it's been pretty even, minus 14 in the point differential for the Seattle Seahawks. But San Francisco is favored by 3, rightly so. The defense has been playing great. 6-game winning streak for the 49ers coming in. All right, don't forget, we'll have our best bet segment toward the end. I'm Vasi Vadaparty. This is the VPartySports Podcast. We'll be back Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, with a full NFL, NCAA, NBA hoops deal. Daily Post at 6 Eastern, though we'll be on at 11 a.m. Eastern with a Daily Post for Friday. And if you're interested in sponsorships, please contact me directly through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can get to me right there at VPartySports. All right, when we come back, we will hit the NBA, we'll hit the NCAA, talk a little free agency, and we'll give you the world-famous unprecedented, never duplicated best bet segment for Thursday. I'm Vasi VParty. This is the VPartySports Podcast. Back with you in 30 seconds. Welcome back to the VPartySports Podcast. Vasi VParty here with you on a Thursday night football. The big one tonight, Seattle hosting San Francisco. 49ers a 3-point favorite, 43.5 the total, 43 the total. 49ers win. They win the NFC West. Seattle in 8th right now in the wild card spot. All right. Don't forget the best bet segment coming up later. We'll be back Saturday and Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. on the West Coast. Full NCAA, NBA hoops preview. Big NCAA hoops this weekend. We got bowl games this weekend as well, too. The NFL has 3 games Saturday, a full slate Sunday, and, of course, Monday. Don't forget the bowl games start tomorrow. Where do we have the bowl games here? I have these for you. The bowl games will start tomorrow. There are 2 games tomorrow in NCAA football. The Miami, Ohio, and UAB at 8:30 a.m. West Coast time, 11:30 on the East. UAB at 10.5-point favorite against Miami of Ohio. The hometown lenders Bahama Bowl, that's first. And then at 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock in the Pacific, both teams ended up in the top 25 in the BCS rankings. Troy at number 24. They're going to host University of Texas San Antonio. The Duluth Trading Care Bowl is in Orlando, Florida. That's going to be a good matchup for the 24th and 25th best team in the NCAA right now. So there we go with that. I'm sure I have that somewhere here. All right. Anyway, that's the bowl games for tomorrow, as we said. And if you're interested in sponsorships, please contact me directly. Again, the podcast will be back Saturday and Sunday, unless there's bowl games, unless there's early action. And we'll be on at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific as well. All right, let's hit the NBA. Got a few games going tonight. We'll get to Wednesday's action in a second, but I want to make sure I get these out to you. Memphis Grizzlies, 1.5-point favorite versus Milwaukee, 226.5. Miami, 3.5. They got the game winner from Tyler Hero last night in Oklahoma City. 3.5 at Houston, 218 the total. Utah, who beat New Orleans early in the week at a pick this time. New Orleans was favored by 2 on Tuesday night. 232 the total. And the Clippers, who won last night against Minnesota, 1.5-point favorites at home against the Phoenix Suns, leaking oil a little bit, 217.5 the total. All right, we get to the NBA. Wednesday, the Warriors lost their 12th road game of the year. They didn't lose 12 games all year last year, barely lost 12 games last year on the way to a world championship. But this is their 12th road game they've lost. They got blown out by Milwaukee. They got blown out by Indiana, though they made it close at the end. Draymond Green got kicked out. He got 2 tees and got ejected late. Steph Curry hurt his shoulder on a play underneath the hoop. His left shoulder is aching. They're going to have an MRI, see what's going to happen there, but that's a big loss for the Warriors right now, who currently sit in 10th. We'll give you the standings in a second. The Kings beat the Raptors 124-123. Big night for the Sacramento Kings. They go into Toronto, not an easy place to win, but they get the 124-123 victory over Toronto. The first time they've come back from 6 points down with under 2 minutes to go in a long, long time. Pistons beat Charlotte in overtime. Charlotte had a big lead. That was one of my picks yesterday, as many as 7, 8, and 10 points. But the game ended up in overtime, and Detroit took over in overtime. Same with the Bulls. Bulls were down to the Knicks all night. They came back, got a lead late in the game. Actually, even had a 3-point lead, possible chance for cover at 4.5. They lose in overtime to the New York Knicks. How about the Orlando Magic? They've only got 9 wins this year, I believe. That's their, 9-20 this year. But they score 50 in the first on Atlanta. Atlanta's leaking oil. Right now, Trae Young, Nate McMillan not getting along very well. Star player, head coach. We've seen it before. Usually it ends up working out in the favor of the star player. This just in, Lamar Jackson out for the Ravens this weekend. So Tyler Huntley should be in line to start after he clears concussion protocol because he did get injured last week. So we'll give you all that on Saturday before their game Saturday afternoon. But anyway, the Magic scored 50 in the first and beat the Hawks big time last night. Also, Tyler Hero, as we said, hits the game winner. Heat beat Oklahoma City. Blazers all over the Spurs. The Cavs beat the Mavericks on the road. That was one of my favorite plays yesterday, was to take the Cavaliers as an underdog at Dallas. Dallas, very inconsistent this year. Who is Dallas? Who are Dallas? The Luka Doncic-led Mavericks are struggling right now. Denver playing very well. They separated late, a close game over Washington. They get the win. They win by 13. They win by 13, covering the 11.5 over Washington. And the Clippers overcame the 5-point deficit at half, outscored the Minnesota Timberwolves by 16 points in the second half, end up winning 99-88 over Minnesota. All right, the standings for the NBA. Here we go. New Orleans already lost to Utah this week, but they still hold the number 1 spot over Memphis. They beat Memphis early in the year, both at 18-9. Denver in third, playing better. They're at 17-10 right now. They are 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. Memphis has won 6 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. And New Orleans lost to Utah, but they're 8-2 in their last 10 as well. Portland has won 3 straight. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They're 16-12. They hold the 4 spot by virtue of the tiebreaker over Phoenix, who is also 16-12. They have lost 5 in a row, have the Phoenix Suns. So they are leaking oil big time. They're a 1.5-point underdog against the next team in the 6th spot, the Clippers. 17-13 are the Clippers. They have played okay basketball. They've won 3 in a row, but they're 6-4 in their last 10. Sacramento in the 7th spot. In the 7th spot at 15-12. Utah 16-14 in the 8th spot. Dallas 14-14, and then Golden State, by virtue of these 2 losses, in the 10th spot, which is still a playoff spot, 14-15, going into the West. You see the lines going at the bottom for the VPartySports Podcast. We'll give you the best bet segment towards the end as well. NBA Eastern Conference. Boston Celtics, a little bit, 2 losses this last week. They beat the Lakers on Tuesday night after losing the Clippers, and the Warriors Saturday, the Clippers Monday. The Lakers they beat in overtime on Tuesday. They're still the best team in basketball, 22-7. Milwaukee right behind them, 20-7 in the number 2 spot. Milwaukee going to play Memphis on the road tonight. Cleveland, we talked about them. They're a very underrated team. They're 18-11. They got a big road win at Dallas last night. Brooklyn 17-12. They are 8-2 in their last 10. They're starting to play really well. They're putting the cohesion together. They've won 4 in a row. The Philadelphia 76ers are 15-12. They've won 3 in a row. As they play tomorrow night, Philadelphia in the 5th spot. The Knicks got the overtime win over the Bulls, 15-13 now in the 6th spot. Indiana, with that win, they held off Golden State last night, 15-14 in the 7th spot. Miami got the game winner last night against Oklahoma City. They've won 2 in a row. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They hold the 8th spot at 14-15. Atlanta also at 14-15. They are leaking oil a little bit. 50 points they gave up to Orlando. That's Nate McMillan's calling card is defense. That's not good. 3-7 in their last 10 are the Hawks. And then Toronto lost 3 in a row. They lost last night late to Sacramento, as we said. All right, so there's your standings in the NBA East and West. We will have the NCAA. We're going to go to the NCAA right now as well. The NBA, 4 games tonight. Let's see, 5 games tonight, 4 games tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Heat Rockets, Bucks Grizzlies, as we said. The Utah New Orleans game, and the Clippers and the Suns. There you have the lines right there on the top. Memphis a 1.5-point favorite. I think it's gone up to 2. Miami a 3.5. Utah, New Orleans a pick, and then the Clippers a 1.5-point favorite against Phoenix, who's lost 5 in a row. All right, moving on to NCAA basketball. Last night, a big one. 2 top 25 teams in the NCAA. UCLA, a 2-point underdog, goes into Maryland, beats them up badly, 87-71. to 60. The game wasn't even that close. I think at one point they were up by 43 points, but it's the third loss in a row for Maryland, who fall to 8-3. UCLA now 9-2. They're number 16 in the country. Maryland number 20. I don't know if they're going to stay number 20. They've lost to Tennessee. They lost to Wisconsin, and they beat Illinois. So they've lost 3 in a row, and that's Wisconsin, Tennessee, UCLA, and their next game against St. Peter's next Thursday before Christmas. And then conference play will start. We'll get more into college basketball as we get down the road. Oregon beats Riverside. USC holds off Long Beach State. Louisville was 0-9. They get their first win against a pretty good Western Kentucky team. Florida, are they for real, or is Ohio not very good? 82-48 there. Mississippi State, 69-59 over Jackson State. Auburn, number 17, 72-64 over Georgia State as well. Tonight in the NCAA, very limited schedule. 3 good games that I picked out. Wisconsin at number 22 hosts Lehigh of Pennsylvania. Out here on the West Coast, the Santa Clara Broncos have played very well. So is UC Irvine. Santa Clara with a win over Portland State Tuesday night. They're 9-3 now, and they host a 7-3 UC Irvine team. Seattle University, out of the WAC, is going to visit Oregon State, who has struggled. Seattle U 7-1, Oregon State 4-6. I like to mention the Pac-12 teams whenever I get a chance. And so a lot of games going on right now. We're a week away from Christmas. Conference play will restart after the Christmas holiday. But right now we've got a big weekend in college basketball. Lots of games to talk about on Saturday and Sunday. As I look through the schedule here real quick, you got Indiana, Kansas. That's a big one. Alabama, Gonzaga. That's a big one. Houston will play Virginia. That's a big one. North Carolina, Ohio State, though North Carolina struggled. They're out of the top 25. You got Ohio State, Arkansas, number 10, Illinois 18, Virginia Tech at 24, UCLA and Kentucky. They just beat Maryland. They dumped Maryland big time. They're going into Lexington to play Kentucky. I believe that's going to be in Kentucky. No, that's going to be at Madison Square Garden. So there is the CBS Sports Classic, 2 games. That's North Carolina, Ohio State, and then UCLA, Kentucky. They're both in Madison Square Garden. The number 1 team, Purdue, play Davidson on Saturday. Don't underestimate Davidson. UConn will visit Butler, and then number 9, Arizona, will host Tennessee, who's at number 6. So big weekend of college basketball, no college football. The bowl games are starting to take place, so this is really the first weekend that college basketball can showcase their players. All right, moving on to baseball here a little bit. Giants signed Carlos Correa to a 13-year contract, $350 million. The Giants got their bat they wanted. They didn't get Aaron Judge, but now they've got a shortstop that can play great defense, but he is a big-time lineup guy, hit 3rd or 4th in that lineup. In 13 years, you'll be 41 when the contract ends. So you got to think the Giants signed him for the first 8 years, and hopefully they're looking at a chance to win going into it. But I know a lot of Giants fans were very unhappy that they didn't get Aaron Judge. I don't think they were going to get Aaron Judge anyway. You heard our podcast on Monday with Steven Risotto of the RizzoCast and Shutdown Inning. He covers the San Francisco Giants as a beat writer. He didn't think they were going to get Aaron Judge either as well. And then Oakland, about those days, boy, I live in the Bay Area. I'm not used to having not having both leagues in the same city. Looks like Oakland may be gone, though, the way that the management is trading players and letting players go. They did trade the all-star catcher Sean Murphy to Atlanta. He's going to join Matt Olson, who was traded there before last year. A's got prospects back, big deal. That's what they do every year. And now this is one of those guys that they traded again. If you feel better, they signed Aledmus Diaz from Houston, the world champions, and Jace Peterson from the Milwaukee Brewers. So more moves and more moves that don't really move the needle as far as Oakland A's fans go. Noah Syndergaard, Thor, signs with the Dodgers. Tyler Anderson's gone, so they brought in Syndergaard, who pitched well for the Phillies on their World Series run last year. And then Ryan Yarbrough of the Tampa Bay Rays, who was 16-8 2 years ago. A lot of that in that starting role, I guess, to bring in the starter after you open up after the opener. That's what they call it, the opener. So Ryan Yarbrough usually was the second pitcher after the opener would start the first inning. In those days it was Sergio Romo when he first came up, but he notched 16 wins. He signs a 1-year contract with the Tampa Bay Rays. And then we talked about the Diaz and Peterson signings as well. 2. All right. Best bet segment now. Here we go. NFL. 49ers -3. I like them. The defense playing well, plus 108-point differential. Can't go against that. So San Francisco -3 tonight. The NBA. LA Clippers -1.5. Suns have lost 5 in a row. Clippers came back off a 5-point deficit at halftime last night versus Minnesota. Played great defense, shut down Anthony Edwards, shut down the entire Timberwolves team. 1.5 seems low to me against Phoenix. Take the Clippers. Memphis and Milwaukee, both these teams can score. It's pretty tough to pick a side on this. Milwaukee had a great game against Golden State at home. They have not played well on the road. Memphis, a 2-point favorite. Probably would lean that way, but I just think there's going to be a lot of points tonight. 227 the total. And then the New Orleans Pelicans, they lost to Utah on Tuesday night in Utah. They go right back to Utah. This time the line a little bit cheaper for you instead of -2 from Tuesday. It's a pick 'em. You take New Orleans at the pick 'em tonight. NCAA, like those Santa Clara Broncos, 2.5 points against Irvine tonight. And then in the NHL, we have 3 games tonight. The Montreal Canadiens are playing better. 160 the favorite there. Pittsburgh, they are red hot right now. They are 9 of their last 10. They are -105 tonight. And Winnipeg at 160. They've got the Nashville Predators. They're -160. Pittsburgh is at Florida. They're -105 on the road at Florida. They're 17-8-4 right now, 38 points, doing very well in the Eastern Conference. And Florida at 14-12-4, 32 points, doing pretty well. And then you've got Montreal. They are hosting the Anaheim Ducks, who are having just an awful time scoring. You got to think Montreal is going to have the edge there. So Montreal, Pittsburgh, Winnipeg. Don't forget, we'll be back with the Daily Post, 11 a.m. Eastern. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Saturday and Sunday. Very early in the morning, 9 a.m. before all the games start. Bowl games start early. College basketball on Saturday. We got NFL on Saturday. The bowl games, NBA, NC2A, NHL as well. So a full day Saturday, Sunday, of course, NFL day for the most part. And then you got NCAA and NBA hoops as well. Daily Post, generally at 6 p.m. Eastern, but tomorrow will be at 11 a.m. Eastern. And of course, if you're interested in sponsorships, please contact me directly through Instagram, through Twitter, through Facebook. You can reach me there at VPartySports. I'm Vasi Vadaparty, the VPartySports Podcast for Thursday. Thank you all on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for joining me today. Thanks for the comments. We'll look forward to seeing you Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. on the West Coast for the next edition of the VPartySports Podcast. Don't forget to stay up on social media for the Daily Post. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific for the Daily Post. Thanks again to everybody. Appreciate the support. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great